I don't know if it's warm enough or beautiful enough, or if he's able to finagle enough time off. But this is the kind of January day where if it was right enough, given the weather, that our next guest, Jeff Logan, best Buckeye coverage analyst and renowned golfer, would be on a golf course. Are you able to pull the clubs out on a day like today, or is it too chilly?
Was that an invitation?
Well, when the last thing that he and Bill Conley said to each other when we were, leaving before the Rose Bowl, he said, "Hey, Bill, winter golf. If you have an opening, I'm in." So, I mean, I know that's always on your mind. So.
Well, I will take whatever opportunity I can get, Matt, but I've got the family flying back today from the Rose Bowl. So
yes.
I have got house duty with two dogs that are taking a lot more of my time than I thought they would, but I love them to death.
Very good, very good. Before I get to what I wanted to have you on about, there's the rumors right now that Al Washington, the linebacker coach, great recruiter for Michigan, potentially is somebody that's on Ryan Day's radar because they work together at Boston College. But the other tie-in is, Al Washington is a local kid because his dad was a teammate of yours at Ohio State. Am I right?
Correct. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and Al Washington ended up having a terrific career at Ohio State and has had a great presence in the Central Ohio community. His son was a terrific football player in college at Boston College. And I'd be honest with you, I think Al was really disappointed that his son never got a chance to come to Ohio State. Just wasn't, part of the recruiting plans coming here. But congratulations to that young man with the rise that he has made in the coaching ranks. And for Ryan Day to be considering a kid of his youth being the linebacker coach at Ohio State, I think is a terrific accomplishment.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, Stan, I think the strength of Michigan's defense last year, you could argue, was linebacker play, was it not?
In the front.
Well, it was.
Front seven.
Yeah, those guys were certainly well prepared. There's no question about it. And but it also helps to have that kind of talent that Michigan had in the linebacking core. Yeah,
no doubt. Devin bushes don't fall off of trees necessarily. All right.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, because you brought this up the day of the Rose Bowl, and we were talking about Tate Martel and his reaction, and it made a lot of headlines when he was asked about the possibility of Justin Fields, the Georgia player transferring to Ohio State, a 5-star, and Tate kind of drew a line in the sand and has, made his comments about him being here and, that I busted my rear here and he doesn't know the system and all that stuff. We played the on-field interview that Laurie Schmidt and others did with him where he said, "Hey, I just don't want him to make a bad decision because I know it's going to be hard and all that stuff." And you have a similar story in that you were the presumed running back that was going to take over for Archie Griffin, and lo and behold, Woody Hayes goes out and recruits some other guys that were junior college transfers, and you didn't react well to it. So at least you were angry about it. I'm just interested, can you feel for Tate Martel, A, and how he's reacting to it, and are you okay with how has reacted to these rumors about Justin Fields?
Well, I will tell you this. I'm proud of the young man for standing up and being competitive because, he has busted his rear end and using his terminology in the last couple of years. And if Dwayne Haskins does, like we think, make the decision to go on and play in the National Football League, then I think he certainly has got to, lay, claim to that position going into spring football. And it won't be any different. And, we had 5 or 6 tailbacks when Archie graduated, and I was just one of those guys. And I felt like I was the heir apparent, but I had to go earn it in spring practice. And where I felt as though I had earned the right to be a little disappointed in what Coach Hayes did in terms of going out after spring practice and recruiting a junior college transfer was that I thought we had proven as a football team that we had our running game intact going into that 1976 season. And, when it became clear that Woody was going to go recruit a JC guy by the name of Ron Springs, and Ron was a terrific teammate and a wonderful running back, and God bless him and rest in peace. And passed away a number of years ago. I'm just glad I didn't have Twitter at the time. My goodness, I was angry at Coach, but I also internalized it to the point that there was only one thing that was going to keep me off the field, and that was me. And because I can't control what another guy does, I can't control what another coach does in terms of bringing other competition in. But I knew that I had earned that right. And as long as I went out there and did what I thought I could do, then there wasn't going to be any question. And in 1976, I am proud to say there was no question who was the best running back on that football team.
And so it strengthened your resolve. Stan, in your case, when you were talking about Mark Garcia coming in, did it strengthen your resolve? I'm just wondering if it
had to.
Yeah.
It's fight or flight. Right? It's either you're going to, bear down and do more and be better, or, you're going to be out of there. It was a little different for us. for us, at least Walt Harris got us in the room and said, none of you guys are good enough to play here. Like, it doesn't seem like that's what's happening with Tate. It didn't seem like, Jeff, that's what happened with you. You guys just show up. But you do know that guys are always showing up, though. I mean, that's the nature of the school. It's just harder when it's an older guy, a JUCO transfer, somebody that's been at another school. But, there's a saying that I've heard people say a few times, what the Lions could care less about what the Lambs are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be a Lion in this scenario.
Yeah, I guess.
Matt, in this era of near free agency in college football, and I think we can all admit it's heading in that direction. You're going to see some disenchanted guys that are, in my opinion, afraid to compete. I mean, my goodness, you get beat out, go beat out the other guy. I mean, don't just whine and transfer. I mean, that's the thing that's driving me crazy is just guys waving their hands. Now, if you're a graduate transfer like Joe Burrow was, then I understand that you've got a chance to go out there and lay your claim and go do your thing. But this thing about I'm a freshman, I competed, I don't like what they did, I'm taking off and I'm leaving. That's a bunch of crap as far as I'm concerned.
And there's another graduate transfer. Stan brought this up earlier that could be on the market in a week or so by the name of Jalen Hertz. You talk about the age of free agency in college football, Jeff. Can you imagine if he makes that decision to leave Alabama?
Oh, he's leaving.
Especially after this year where he stayed and did compete and then gets his opportunity and wins the SEC title game. Jeff, that's going to be a crazy market as well for that kid.
Well, no question about it. And you hate to see something like that get into college football, but we are certainly going in that direction, and I don't think there's any way around being able to do that. And so got to be very fully understanding of is that the game is changing dramatically. I'll share a story with you, Matt, and it's kind of interesting. In that 1976 season, in the second week, we were on the road to Penn State, and Coach Hayes came to me before the game, and I'd had a terrific game in the opening game against Michigan State. And he said, Jeff, I just want to give you a warning. He says, we're going to play Ron Springs a little bit because his family is coming to the game. He was from Silver Springs, Maryland, which was close by. We were playing at Penn State. And he says, I don't want you to get upset. We're not replacing you. But just understand that I kind of got the sense this was a recruiting promise. And it really burned me. I mean, I was just terribly upset about the whole thing. And about the middle of the second quarter, here comes Ron Springs onto the field. And I don't know what possessed me, but I turned to him in the huddle as he got there, and I said, leave. I'm not going off the field. and I didn't. I stayed in the huddle, and I was just like, oh, my God, what did I just do? And Woody and I had a conversation about it at halftime, and he wasn't happy with me, but he understood, and I think he respected me for standing up to him at that point because, again, I felt like I had earned my position.
It's interesting, too, the difference, and Stan, you can relate to this, quarterback-wise, you can only play one, although in your years they didn't do that. At least in your case, and now you rejected it, at least at that moment, Jeff, you could tell him, go away. In Tate Martel's case, dealing with this and dealing with a potential transfer coming in, if he doesn't win the job, it's not like he's even going to play. So I can understand where his guard might be up even more so. I respect the competitiveness in him. I just wish he hadn't gone the step of actually, I don't know, signaling out the kid and bringing Justin Fields actually into it. I mean, to me, I would have rather had it like, hey, he's welcome to come here, but I feel like it's my job. Instead of like, it almost makes it sound like I don't want him to come here because it's my job. You know what? If that makes any sense, Jeff.
Yeah, it does. I understand that. That's why I said at the beginning, Matt, I'm afraid what would have happened if I had Twitter. I'd probably feel pretty badly about some of the things that I would have, you'll put on Twitter what you won't necessarily say to somebody. And I think that's one of the things that these young kids have got to understand, that they got to be very, very careful. It shouldn't be ready, fire, aim when they're hitting that little button to say send on Twitter.
Yep.
They got to think about it and have somebody read it before it gets sent out.
Last thing, Jeff, actually two things. First thing, though, and I asked you this several weeks ago, and I want to ask you again, whether it is Tate Martel or, Justin Fields or Matthew Baldwin, whomever it is, whoever takes over as quarterback next year, assuming that Dwayne does leave, and Dwayne says he's 50-50, but if he leaves, they are taking over a position from a guy that had a season like we've never seen, not only in Ohio State history, in Big Ten history, borderline as good a season as we've seen any quarterback in NCAA history have. Only 6 have thrown for 50 touchdown passes or more, and he's one of them. And you had to come in and start after Archie Griffin won back-to-back Heismans. What would you tell the incumbent or the new starting quarterback? What advice would you give him about taking over with the bar as high as it can possibly be, taking over a position like that?
I would say, Archie and I had a conversation about it, and way back when, and he encouraged me. He said, Jeff, do not try and replicate anything that's been going on, and the measurement's not going to be another Heisman Trophy by any stretch. Go out there and be yourself. Do the best job you can do. He says, I've seen you work, your rear end off to be able to get to this point, and you've earned the right to be able to do this. And, go out there and be yourself. And I think the key to that is that what a great opportunity it is. It's pressure, yes, Matt, but it could maybe paralyze you if you let it do that. But I felt like it was, everybody's going to be watching. This is the biggest stage you could ever be on because, quite frankly, in Columbus, Ohio, I don't think people thought there was going to be life after Archie. And I'm sure there's people right now that feel that the quarterback position and offensively, there may not be life after Dwayne Haskins. And so these guys have a great opportunity, whomever it is, to go out there and prove that they're part of something special.
Great advice. Just be authentic. Be yourself. I mean, look, Dwayne Haskins followed up a historic quarterback here. His numbers were fabulous, but they were different. So now whoever it is, if you're Tate, you're probably going to get back to running more. Just be you, and the fan base will accept you if you're successful.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I think, Stan, and this is we got a lot of time to think about this, and spring practice will certainly tell what kind of offense we're going to have in the future. But, they kept telling us that Tate Martel was the guy, he would go in there and he would run the Ohio State offense. And I'm not so sure that Tate Martel is the guy to run the Ohio State offense the way we saw it this past year, though the kid is pretty productive throwing the football. And if you're Ryan Day, and I thought you made a great comment earlier in the show when you talked about the fact that was Urban coaching in the second half or was Ryan Day, the fact that they were throwing the ball like crazy is evidence Ryan Day had a lot to do with what was going on with that offense. And if that's the kind of football Ohio State's going to have in the future under Ryan Day, is Tate Martel the right guy? Who knows? I hope that he is because he's earned the right. But I think there's a whole lot of things that are going to change in the next 180 days before we get ready for the next season.
Well, it's already changed. You see who the quarterback coach is? He didn't come from, Nebraska in 1955.
Yeah.
He's come from Oklahoma State.
Mike Yursich. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking a few minutes for us. I appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, great being with you guys, and Happy New Year to everybody there. It's been a great ride this year with this Ohio State football team.